Mr. Ejiofor, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you. This is a beautiful film, extremely well performed. You should be very proud of it. And I very much enjoyed watching it. I'd like to talk about your cast first. So if you could put on your director's hat and brag a little bit about the cast. There you go. I love Jay Will.
Yeah.
His work in Tulsa King, especially, just in the first season was fantastic. Seems like a young man whose future is wide open. Is that unlimited potential what you saw as a connection to the real life Rob Peace?
Well, it was a lot of things, that we were really shooting at a time when before Tulsa King had come out, and we were sort of all putting the film together really before Tulsa King had come out. So I wasn't aware of him in that context particularly, and he went to Juilliard. He was coming out of Juilliard in the COVID year, basically. So he didn't have a showcase. There was no sort of formal kind of dynamic that he was coming out into. And so they had some online materials, that he would do. I think he did a couple of speeches from different films, and which I was shown. And I was really struck by. I was just struck by his. First of all, I just thought he had a real warmth and a real charisma, genuine charisma. I felt like he had a beautiful instinct for sort of the naturalism and really being honest, just being honest about character and sort of diving into that. So I found that I was immediately very engaged with him, So I wanted to do some workshops with him in Rob, in the context of Rob, and it very quickly became clear that he was, a really brilliant actor and could handle, the complexity of this role in a way that I thought was pretty unique, actually. So I was thrilled to cast him.
It has to be interesting being both or all writer, director, and co-star within it as well when you're casting. Because I absolutely love the relationship you had with Jay, but at the same time, you and Mary J. Blige said so much without saying anything, in a sense, about the history of those two characters. Again, the casting process for Mary, what you got out of her being on screen, and what was it like working with her? Because it was tremendous.
Well, Mary is an icon, as everybody knows, and so her being excited about the part and excited about playing Jackie was incredible, and this was, because we were building up to make the film, and then COVID happened, and so then the whole thing got shut down, and it was like a couple of years later that we were able to pick it up again. And Mary stayed through that entire process. She was a sort of steadfast supporter of the film and through it all, and I really credit her for that, not only for giving this incredible performance but also for being so supportive of the process. And I felt that she really connected to Jackie. She really connected to the challenges that
Mhm.
Jackie faces within this context. So there was a capacity for Mary to have an enormous amount of depth and affinity with this role and with this characters. And we are dealing with, basically 2 decades of a family's experiences, incredible highs and devastating lows of one family, and quite an epic life story for all of them in many
Mhm.
ways. And so having that kind of shorthand, really understanding some of the dynamics that people are going through, and having a real empathy and engagement, I think was really important. And Mary had all of those things and more.
Absolutely. I'm noticing a few motifs that you used within the film, specifically the color orange, because anytime that Rob would be home, it was lit very differently, and it was a use of color specifically. I think there's a line that Jackie says he has an umbilical cord to East Orange. Was that warm orange light supposed to remind us of that specific connection?
Yeah, it was really the light. And when I spoke to, myself and Ksenia Sarita, discussing the palette for this, the cinematographer Ksenia Sarita, discussing the palette for this movie and understanding how the film would work in terms of its color. That was one of the most important kind of ideas, I think, that the color orange was orange and going into those reddish hues was really important. It starts with the fire that begins the story in some ways, and it goes through both Rob's life, but also it's part of Skeet's journey as well, and what he's sort of passing on, and part of his kind of legacy, and the sort of inherent chaos of that legacy. So this color, and obviously it by definition related to the place, of orange, just felt like it was going to be part of the kind of the sort of part of the tone of a sort of thematic tone of the film, and that relationship, and Rob's journey.
The other motif I noticed was that of locks, that Skeet is obviously locked behind bars. Rob locks people out both physically and emotionally. And there's a very specific close up on a lock on a painting. I won't mention too much, not to spoil it, but was that something, again, that you got from the original Jeff Hobbs novel, or was that a motif that you wanted to write into this screenplay?
That was something that I was keen to write into the story. The idea that that there are different forms of incarceration. There are different ways that we can find ourselves trapped. Some of them are things that we can create. Some of them are completely beyond our control, and some of them exist within the context of history, within the history of a family, the history of a race, the history of a group of people, and some of the complications that are inherent through the systemic realities that affect those groups, and so one of the things that was always interesting to me was what ties Skeet and Skeet's journey to Rob, and what ties Rob's journey to a slightly more a slightly wider journey, the slightly more complex systemic journey. And I think I was always fascinated by these intersections, between race, housing, education, criminal justice system, and how there are systemic failures, along the way that pressurized, that added increased pressure on this brilliant young man, and made a lot of his life, even though he was charismatic and gregarious and carried things to some degree lightly, it made a lot of his life more challenging than it needed to be.
I want to ask you about a film that you probably don't get asked about all that often anymore. I had seen you in Four Brothers, but the first time I really noticed you was in Serenity.
Yeah.
And that to me seems like it was a renegade film. Like you were just talking about, getting through COVID and making this film and pushing to get it done. That also seemed like a film that, even though you had, support from a studio, that in a sense shouldn't have been made. It was kind of the fans that pushed that film forward. What do you remember about that experience, and maybe the panic that was behind that production?
No, I mean, I don't know if I felt that there was panic exactly. I feel that people had a really deep sense of appreciation. There was really a sense of gratitude, I think. I think because the TV show was fantastic, just absolutely. I mean, that was my introduction to that whole, world. I remember being asked to have a meeting, with Josh about it, and I didn't know Firefly, so I wanted to kind of sit and watch, and I expected to just, watch one or some of one and get a sense of it, and just found myself, binging before binging was a word. You know what I mean? Like, binging the entire thing, which back then was actually tape after tape, of this show. And it was like, I just thought there was something really special that had been captured. And so I think everybody felt that. And so coming onto set, I think, was that everybody was relieved to be back in the shoes, of these characters, and we're grateful to the fans for making it happen. It was, I think it was one of those.
Real quick, you talked about back in the shoes. Are we going to see you in the Mordo shoes one more time?
We will see. Let us, yeah. I think that's very much a kind of open door, and so we'll see.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, congratulations on this film. All the best.
Thank you.
Hey Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.